friends, welcome to our psychic development Q&A. My name is Nicole Antoinette. If you are unfamiliar with me or with my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, then let me introduce myself. Again, my name is Nicole Antoinette. Excuse me, I am a psychic medium and also a psychic spiritual mentor, really kind of the jack of all trades. I do a little bit of everything when it comes to the spiritual field. So today I just wanted to connect with you guys and talk about psychic development, answer some of your questions related to psychic development. And as you probably know, that is a wide umbrella. Psychic development encompasses so many different things, such as dreams, dream interpretation, seeing into the future, being empathic, and really kind of absorbing and feeling other people's emotions. So there's a lot of different things that can happen when we're psychic. And I do believe that all of us are born psychic. I think that we all have intuitive abilities and spiritual gifts. And as we grow up, as we get older, we hide our light because we're afraid of it. We're conditioned by the adults in our life that either it's not safe for us to have these abilities or they're not real. And so that can really mess us up. And for those of you who grew up in families where your psychic abilities and gifts were nurtured, then you probably have a really good relationship with your own psychic gifts. So today I wanted to do a couple of things. I did, of course, want to answer your questions, and I also wanted to pull cards for you guys from my new psychic development deck. So this deck is a deck that I created. I'm still working on finding a printer to print the copies that will be for sale. I'm trying to determine who to go with and what makes the most sense. But I developed this deck because so many of us go through those seasons where we don't necessarily have a lot of trust in ourselves or in our intuitive abilities. And so this is a deck of 40, I believe it's 44 cards. I have to actually double check. It's either 44 or 47. Gosh, is that bad? I don't even know my own deck. So it's one of those two. And there are different affirmations that will help you to connect with yourself. And many of you know I'm not a huge believer in affirmations. I know I just kind of kind of seem like a hypocrite there. But I do believe in, well, let me back up. The type of affirmations that I don't believe in is love is finding me and I am wealthy. And I don't think that those are really healthy affirmations. I think that what we tell ourselves is very important, and some affirmations are better than others. So the affirmation of I am wealthy is kind of wishful thinking, but an affirmation that says I am focused and I will do the tasks that will increase my financial wellness, that's a lot healthier because it is giving you the momentum and direction to take action. And so that's my belief system on affirmations. And then also when it comes to things like trusting yourself and trusting your psychic abilities, we do have to develop a healthier self-talk, because how we talk to ourselves when it comes to our own identity, our spirit, our likes and our dislikes is very important. And really no one should be making that call for us except for us, unless of course we are engaging in destructive behavior. Then of course it's a little different. So I did want to take a moment to say hello to everyone joining me live. We've got AM from Australia. She says, I'll be awake for this one. Happy to hear that. I am planning on changing the time of these because I know that for my pals all over the world, it's really hard for them to be able to show up for this time. So not this week, but next week, I'll probably be showing up around 12 or 1 p.m. Central, because I think that'll allow people from other parts of the globe to be able to participate with us. And of course, the more the merrier. I want to say hi to Brianna, to Teriyaki Sarah. Can't go wrong with teriyaki. Cute Cursive, Karen Atkins, Christy, Terry, Jazz, Sagita, man, there's so many we've got another full house, which is awesome. CF, Joshua, hey Joshua, PK, hey PK, and Luis. Did I say Teresa? Hi Teresa. Will work for likes. Will work for likes. That's cute. So hello to everyone. So go ahead and start putting, oh, hi Creatively Arts. We've got Ezekiel who is here for the first time. Louise from the London, UK. It is, wow, you're up late. You are up late. Hi, Casey. So go ahead and pour your questions regarding psychic development into the chat. I will do my best to answer them. And remember, when I'm talking about psychic development, you can throw really any type of spiritual based intuitive question in there. I'm not doing psychic readings today. Please do not ask me a question of a psychic nature. You will not get an answer because that's not what we're doing today. Today is focused on you. Today is focused on bringing you the information that's going to help you to be comfortable with your psychic experiences and with your psychic gifts. I cannot stress enough how important I think it is for each of us to honor and develop and accept our psychic abilities and to understand that those are the abilities that make us special and unique. They don't make us strange. They don't make us outcasts. People might put us aside and might be scared of us and might say horrible things about us because of our bravery and courage to adopt and adapt to our own gifts. But that's on them. That's not on us. When we're able to fully embrace all parts of ourselves, including our spiritual side, that allows us to live in full authenticity and full expression of who we are. And I believe that the world needs more of that. So, all right. So here we go. Teresa's asking, how effective do you find a pendulum to be? Teresa, that's an excellent question. So, pendulums were actually one of the first divination tools that I worked with. The very first was actually tarot. Many of you know the story. It was actually through tarot that all of my gifts and abilities really started to light up in a way that that shocked even me. So, tarot and oracle cards were the first divination tools I started working with. Third was the pendulum. So, I have a deep fondness for the pendulum because I think that it is a very special tool. As far as the effectiveness of it, I think it really depends on what it is that you're using it for, how attached you are to the question, and how well you're able to detach yourself from what it is that you need to know. When I use my pendulum to look for things, it lies to me a lot when it comes to my own stuff. But when I use a pendulum or dowsing tools to find someone else's lost items, it's usually bang on. When I use pendulums to ask yes or no questions, if I have no knowledge whatsoever of what I'm asking, I've noticed that it's gives very accurate answers. However, if I do have some type of information before asking the question, I do notice that that seems to mess with the results. So, for example, years ago, I was testing my pendulum and I was still getting to know it. And a friend of mine asked, okay, does my boyfriend have a truck or does he have a car? And the pendulum said he had a truck. That turned out to be correct. So she asked, well, is it black, white, or red? Went through the different questions. It ended up being white. And she was like, oh, that's 2 for 2. She asked about the year, and I don't remember the years given, but the pendulum got the year right too. And when it got all 3 of those right, her eyes got big. She took a few steps back and she's like, that's really scary. Now, if I had already known those answers, I probably would have, I mean, obviously I would have been able to influence the pendulum. But if I had known things like her boyfriend was more prone to have a truck than a sports car, just knowing that might have influenced the answers. And so when people come to me about things that I already kind of have a knowledge about, I have noticed that that's when it seems to be less accurate. And I think it's because when it comes to my friends, I'm invested in them. I can't help. And so if I'm feeling a way about a particular situation and they ask me about it, it's very possible that my own projection can come through. So you really have to make sure that you're clear minded when you're using one. The other thing that I actually like pendulums for is for clearing energy. I think it's wonderful for that. That's my favorite use for a pendulum nowadays, actually. I don't use it so much for communication anymore, but I do use it for chakra healing, for energy healing. And whenever I've used a pendulum to initiate different energy healings, it's worked. It's worked really well. People have noticed the shift and the difference in them. So, yeah, so I hope that answers your question. I would love to hear more about your experience with pendulums, Teresa. Okay, the next question I have, hey, Nicole, my question is how to come down from channeling, what type of breath work, what stone, etc. Thank you. Okay, so that's a really good question. Most of the channelers I know use food to come down from channeling, and I do too. Whenever I channel, there's one of two things that happens. I either am exhausted and can hardly speak, can hardly move, like I just want to take a nap. I just want to watch some, Schitt's Creek or something hilarious on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or wherever my favorite shows are, or The Good Place. Love The Good Place. So funny. Or I will eat, and you don't necessarily have to eat anything healthy either. Eating plenty of protein, having a smoothie, having chocolate. I've known people who like to have McDonald's afterwards because it does help to bring you back to a level where you feel grounded. And I can't remember if I said chocolate already, but chocolate is wonderful and grounding. So try that. That's something great to have. And I'm sure like when you're channeling, it's important to hydrate, and you might want to have things like green tea and drinks like that nearby, because that can be very helpful as well. As far as spirit, or as far as crystals, I don't work with crystals a whole lot, but I believe it's tiger's eye, and I can't remember the red. It's not, there's a red stone. It's red. It's pretty solid, and it usually has like some black veins in it. I can't remember the name of it right now, but those are supposed to be great for grounding. So you can just like kind of hold it in your hand and breathe and just take some deep breaths, and that's something that can be helpful as well. Also, just shaking it off, like the Taylor Swift song, shake it off, shake it off. That's something you can try as well. So I think that really the key is to just play with a lot of different methods and see which one works best for you. So, all right. The next question. Oh, you know what? I forgot to pull cards for you guys. I was so excited to use these cards for you. So, okay, backtracking to Teresa. Teresa, let me pull a affirmation card for you. It says, "My psychic abilities love me." So that's your affirmation. That is your statement of truth when it comes to your psychic abilities. Hopefully that helps you to open up more. And Jazz, let me pick one for you. For Jazz, I am an energetic magnet, and I pull in love, compassion, and understanding toward myself. This makes a lot of sense since you were just asking about channeling. I am an energetic magnet, and I pull in love, compassion, and understanding toward myself. Yeah. Okay. And AM, let's go ahead and pull a card for you. I already see one that's trying to come out and jump out of come out of my deck. I am a friend to the spirit world, and I communicate their messages with love and respect. How amazing, because you just asked what's the best way to differentiate the intuitive information received and if it's now, past, or future psychic or mediumship information. So I am a friend of the spirit world, and I communicate their messages with love and respect. So I feel like in some way that card's answering your question. If you're unsure of the intuitive information and where it's coming from, which is really one of the biggest struggles that I think most of us have when it comes to our psychic abilities, and we start receiving information that's like, where did this come from? Why is it showing up now? What am I supposed to do with that? what you do is you lean into spirit. You lean into that information that you received. And what I teach people to do is to close their eyes and to really focus on the message. And as you just kind of focus on it, for me, the visualization is like, okay, let's say that I received information clairaudiently. So it came in through as a thought in my mind, words, a sentence, and I don't understand exactly what it means or why I'm seeing it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close my eyes and I'm really going to focus on it. And what I might see in my mind's eye is I might see the sky, I might see some clouds, and I might see the sentence written up there. And then in my mind's eye, I kind of zoom in on the clouds, on the question, and I'm making it my intention to get more information. And as I lean into that and as I really dive in, I might see different images. I might hear different things. I might get some sensations intuitively, like impressions. And so that's what you do. You really dive into what it is that you receive. A couple of years ago, I had a wonderful student by the name of Rhonda. She was part of my mediumship class. She's unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but she was part of my mediumship group. And she was a very powerful medium, this girl. She was amazing. And when she would do mediumship readings for others, she wasn't always able to understand what it was she was receiving. And I remember one time we were practicing in our group class, and she saw the figure of a male. And so she was reading for someone, and she says, I have a male here. He's about, whatever age he was. And she said, but I'm not getting any other information. And then she jumped to something else. And I was like, no. Let's go back. And I said, focus on him, like really put your focus and attention on him and ask him about himself. Ask him why he's here. And as she really allowed herself to zone in completely on him and no one else, and as she removed the judgment from herself and removed that need to be right, to get it perfect, that's when the information started coming to her. So I think it's important to have some leniency with yourself and to remember that you don't have to get the message perfect. I know that all of us want to, and let's be clear. We want to get the message clear for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, first of all, we want to be a clear and helpful channel to spirit, to the psychic world, and to the people that we're helping. Obviously, that makes sense. So, of course, we want to get the message right. The second is we do feel better about ourselves when we're able to relay accurate information, and it feels better to us when we understand the message. Unfortunately, we're not always going to have that luxury. The third is that psychics and intuitive people are so heavily bullied in our society, and it doesn't matter what society you live in. Cultures vary from place to place, and most cultures do have opinions. They've got some feelings about psychics and mediums. And so because of that, there is a sense of danger that we feel if we don't get it right, because we don't want to be called a fraud. We don't want to be labeled that, because we know we're not frauds. We know that we're not just ripping people off. But that fear prevents us from being able to simply be human. So we need to be okay on some level with making mistakes. And we need to get, I wouldn't say comfortable exactly, but we need to have a certain level of tolerance so that if people do get upset with us and, do call us frauds or whatever, and I've gotten it so many times. I mean, if you've ever seen the trolls that leave messages on my channels, you've seen it too. We have to be able to just move on from that. So I hope that helps. Again, my best advice is just really lean into the message, focus on it as much as you can, and ask your guides and your angels or higher self what it means. And the answer may come, it may not. It may continue to be a question, and maybe information will come later on that will answer that. But your best bet is always to just lean into it, focus on it, open your senses, see what else you pull up from it, and ask spirit for clarification and for clarity. You can also tune into, maybe doing some tarot cards or oracle cards or something like that, and see if that helps to give you deeper answers. And that's something I've done quite a few times, actually, is turn to tarot oracle when I needed more answers. So I hope that helps. Ezekiel, I'm an upcoming psychic and medium and learning what's something to know or learn to put in my toolbox. Well, Ezekiel, a lot of people would say that if you're learning about mediumship, that meditation, I say meditation because that's what everyone uses. Meditation is going to be one of the most important skills for you to learn. And I don't necessarily think it's meditation that's important to learn. I think that it's learning how to focus and how to stay focused on one thing for a certain amount of time. It's one of the reasons I prefer guided meditations, which are really guided visualizations, over breath work and over, I would say, awareness meditations. Because when you're doing a guided visualization, there's a couple things happening. One is that you're listening to a story, right? So you're following a story, and that keeps your mind engaged because your mind loves to put together pictures, and it loves to figure out puzzles. Like, your mind likes a challenge. And so it's keeping the cognitive part of your brain occupied while it's forming all these fun questions for you. Or I'm sorry, these fun visions for you. And your subliminal mind is doing the same. It's helping to form those visions as well. So your mind's working together when you're doing these guided visualizations. And you're also learning how to focus. And depending on what the visualization is, you're activating your energy, you're strengthening your energy, and you're helping it to expand. So that's a really good tool to have. And then really, any type of spiritual practice that feels good to you is going to be paramount for your education, for your expansion, and for your development. So a spiritual practice can be anything from praying in the morning, lighting incense and setting intentions, reading different holy books or spiritual books, or even self-help books. Whatever you consider to be a deep, profound, meaningful experience that fills your soul, that gives you knowledge, that increases your awareness, that's going to be a good practice for you. And ideally, this is something that you can do every day. And I have found for myself that when I have a daily spiritual practice that I continue, that I keep up on, that's when my gifts tend to open up and stay up. In fact, I just recently started getting into doing a lot of spiritual practices again. So I'm finally kind of getting back into my groove. And I had this experience happen, I think it was last week. Actually, no, it was 2 weeks ago, where I was leaving I was leaving a coffee place. I won't say the name of it because they're not sponsoring this, so I'm not going to say their name. But I was leaving a coffee place, and as I was driving, all of a sudden I started thinking about hazard lights, and I'm like, what the heck? And I started thinking about all the different reasons you might put on hazard lights. Now, I don't recall at any point in time in my life ever pondering hazard lights. What a weird thing to just suddenly think about. So I'm leaving the parking lot, waiting at a red light, thinking again about hazard lights. Why would I turn on my hazard lights? Should I turn on my hazard lights? Under what circumstances would I turn on my hazard lights? It was so strange. So I make a left turn, and seconds later, one of the cars coming, from in the opposite lane had its hazard lights on. Very bizarre. So when that happened, that was such a cool synchronicity. It was so instant that when that happened, my immediate thought was my psychic abilities are back online. Like, that was my thought, like, my psychic abilities are back online. I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's see if that's true. And I've been continuing to experience interesting synchronicities over the past couple of weeks. So, synchronicities can be a sign that your gifts are awakening or that you are in alignment with something. I made a video about that last year that I'll probably redo because synchronicities are interesting, but you'll also see different patterns that repeat without an explanation. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to develop your psychic and mediumship abilities. And in addition to that, I did want to make an announcement that I think you guys will be excited about. But first, Ezekiel, I need to pull your card, don't I? It says, my psychic experiences are exciting adventures that provide a small glimpse into the mysteries of the universe. That one's kind of a mouthful. My psychic experiences are exciting adventures that provide a small glimpse into the mysteries of the universe. So there you go. So I did want to let you guys know that hopefully on September 1st, I am reopening the Psychic Gym. So the Psychic Gym is a membership platform where you will get access to 2 live trainings every week. And these are meant to help you strengthen your psychic abilities. We're going to do a weekly psychic development workshop and a weekly energy healing workshop. You'll also be getting guided meditations. We'll be doing workshops that are separate from the classes. And you'll also get access to all of my online courses, journal prompts, and all sorts of stuff. So I've been in the process of creating that and formatting that for you. And I will have more information coming for you soon. I'm hoping it'll launch on September 1st. That's when you will be able to sign up. And I actually have some fun contests in the works for those of you who end up signing up. So yeah, and I will tell you this, it's heavy on my heart to make sure that it's affordable and stay affordable. And so, excuse me, the monthly cost is actually going to be lower than it was last time. So last time I had this group, it was $25 a month for my founders. And then I think $49 a month for people who joined after the initial opening. But this is actually going to be cheaper than that. It's going to be less than $25 a month because I want to make sure it's affordable to everyone. But I will give you more information as I continue to move forward and do all the fun stuff like putting the sales page together and all of that. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. I want to join the Psychic Gym. Well, I want you to join the Psychic Gym too. And then I also have, my everything just moved. So excited. Let's see. Yes, Psychic Gym. So yeah. High five for affordable. I know. And you know what the thing is like, I know how it feels to want to be a part of different communities and different spiritual courses and whatnot, and not be able to afford it. And you guys might already know this story, but 2 or 3 years ago, when I was really starting to work more on the online courses, I had worked with different business coaches. I actually had 3 different business coaches I was working with, and all of them were pushing me towards creating my my signature course. Like, what did I want to be known for? And I really wanted that to be Embracing Heaven, because I have a deep passion for teaching people how to connect with their loved ones on the other side. Mediumship isn't something that I do anymore. I don't think I'll ever do that again through private sessions. I think I'll continue to do gallery readings and things like that later on, but I'll talk about that another time. In fact, I'm releasing a video about that next week. But I wanted my signature course to be Embracing Heaven. And I had a particular price in mind. And when I was talking to different business coaches, they were all just like, that is way too low. And so all of them kept pushing me to charge hundreds of dollars for this course. And they were saying, you've got money blocks. Of course, one of them was a law of attraction teacher. You have money blocks. You don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in your own worth. And it's like, well, none of that's true. I want people to be able to afford this. I want them to be able to use it. But I really allowed that to get into my head. And plus, I had other things going on where someone I lived with through his actions was making me feel worthless. And so I think just the combination of knowing how I was feeling about myself and being unsure of things, and then having these business coaches, and I mean, they seem highly successful and they're pushing me to raise my prices. And so anyways, I was charging higher prices than what I actually felt comfortable with. And it never felt right. It never felt right. It never felt right to go above that $25 a month. And so now I'm being a total rebel, and it's going to be lower than that. It's going to be lower than that price. So oh, Widow says, I need a mediumship session, Nicole. You have been my only medium in 5 years. I need you. Well, that's very sweet. Mediumship isn't something that I'm offering right now, and like I said, I'll talk about that in a video next week. The truth is that mediumship takes a huge toll on me, and there have been times when I've had a mediumship session and I've felt really joyful and had a lot of energy afterwards. But so many more times, because of the, I guess you could say, the content of the situation and the the intense grief that people walk into a mediumship session with, which totally makes sense, is that when, oh, let me get rid of this gross person. Hold on. Let's get rid of this. Didn't mean to put that on there. Let's see. Yep, we got someone gross. All right, getting rid of someone gross. Someone pretending to be someone else so they can harass me. People are so dumb sometimes. Anyways, so it's hard for me because I am HSP or empath. I don't know which one I am. I know HSP for sure. And so it can be really difficult to hear those different stories. And then, I've had people come forward who were, they had really sad and horrific deaths. And so that can be really hard to connect with. So I just got to a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And then also my mediumship abilities did shut down completely a while ago. And then they were completely unreliable. Like some days they might be off, and some days they'd be on, and some days it'd be kind of and then after a while, at some point, they just turned off completely, and everyone freaked out on me. Why aren't you offering mediumship anymore? It's like, I literally cannot do this right now. I don't have access to that spirit world right now. So I think that the fact that I do that proves that I'm not a fraud, because obviously, you're always going to get people who are like, you're a fraud, you're doing cold reads, you're doing this, you're doing that. If that was true, I'd still be offering mediumship because I'd be a fraud, right? But the fact that I'm not, I think that says something, right? So anyways, okay. Oh, yes, Creatively Arts, Red Jasper, maybe. Yes, that was the one. So when I was talking earlier about grounding after channeling, and I was talking about the red stone that has the black veins in it. Yes, it was Red Jasper. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. How do you tap in more with your mediumship gift? Bree, I really think that the best way for that is practice, practice, practice. When you join the psychic gym, as you're even practicing with people on your typical psychic gifts, what will happen is your mediumship abilities will most likely expand too. And just so you guys know, when we're doing the psychic development class, mediumship will most likely come up too. I don't want to say too much, but at some point, and this probably won't be until next year, when I do reopen the psychic gym, I do plan to have mediumship classes in there as well. So my main goal, this is really aggressive. This is what I want the psychic gym to be eventually. I want to offer mediumship, psychic development, and healing classes. So I want to actually be doing 3 classes per week. and then of course the monthly workshops. So I want to be able to provide you guys with everything that you need to be successful and be supported on your psychic journey. But really, the best way that you can tap into your gifts more is to practice them as often as you can. So being able to really get creative in the ways that you tune into the energies around you. So one practice that's fun is to get a notebook, and I do recommend an actual notebook and a good old fashioned, pen, so nothing digital, and go out in nature or go out to maybe an outdoor shopping mall and just kind of sit there and give yourself permission to just kind of breathe and relax and take in the scene and just feel the vibes. Just feel the vibes in the air. Notice how everything around you feels in that moment. And if you happen to get a sensation of a spirit nearby, maybe just telepathically talk to that spirit. And if you're picking up vibes from other people that are walking by, you can write them down. So I'm a big fan of writing down your experience, although I'll admit I'm the worst at following this advice because I forget to write things down like all the time. And when I do remember to write it down in my journal, I'm like so proud of myself, like, yay, I remembered. But it's so important because I feel like when you're writing this down, it also helps you to channel because you're focused. And I know that for me, that as I start writing things down, like let's say I did have an experience with the spirit, I'm like, that was really cool. I want to write it down so I don't forget about it. I start writing it down. Well, as I'm writing it down, what happens is you get tuned into that spirit again. So as you're writing, you might start channeling, and then you get even more information from that spirit. It's really cool. So that's what I would suggest as a practice. If you have to practice by yourself, if you don't have other people you can practice with, I think that's a wonderful solo activity that you can dive into, because you can go somewhere different every day. You can even just sit in your bedroom and pick up the vibes. You can go in your front yard. You can go to a park. Like I said, you can go to a mall. And no one's going to think you're doing anything weird. No one's going to know you're practicing psychic abilities, except for maybe any spirits that are nearby. And it's just a really good way to expand your awareness, to open your spirit, and to safely practice your gifts. And yes, it's true that you may not have that validation part where you can go to someone and say, hey, I experienced, XYZ, or I came up with this thought. Does this mean anything to you? But I think that sometimes we need to be able to practice and build our trust and our faith in ourselves without the validation. It's kind of like when you're training for a marathon, you might train outside, you might train on a treadmill, whatever it is. And and maybe you're not timing yourself, you're just running to run. That's still good practice. That's still training you for a marathon. It's still building your muscles. Even if you go 2 miles one day instead of your regular 5, you're still training. And so just kind of think of this as you're training for the marathon. You don't need to get the validation piece. You just need to get the awareness and the expansion piece down. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? There's so many great questions. Let's see. Did I answer this one already? Hi, thanks for sharing so much. What do you find helpful for clearing your own projections from intuitive psychic messages? Gosh, that is such a good question. So that's a hard one, because the truth is like I still don't always know when it's my own projection. Okay, wait, let me back up. That's not true. Let me back up. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I'm always aware of what my projections are. Like, I know when something's just my thought. Like, for example, when I told the story about the hazard lights, like, that was a weird thought, and I recognized it was a weird, intrusive thought. Like, I knew that wasn't just me. So that's why I was questioning, where did this thought come from? Why am I thinking of this? Because it's not a normal thought. If it's my thought's going to be like, do I want to watch Dead to Me or The Good Place? Like, that's my thought. Like, do I want to break my keto diet that I've been trying to get back on for the past 5 days? Or do I want to go get a fully loaded Dr. Pepper? Because that sounds good right now. Like those are my thoughts. Or thinking about a friend, like those are my thoughts. But the intuitive psychic messages almost feel intrusive. They come out of nowhere. They don't sound like me. They don't follow a methodical thought process. And by that, I mean that if I am thinking about food, right? If I'm thinking about food, like I might be like, I'm hungry. What do I want to eat? Pizza sounds really good. What kind of toppings do I want on my pizza? Welcome to the internal dialogue of me. Like this is what I think about. I mean, obviously I think about other things too, but we're using this as an example. So those are my normal thoughts. I know my normal thought patterns. Thoughts that come in that say, hazard lights. What would happen if I turned on my hazard lights? That's intrusive. That's weird. That's out of the norm. Or I remember one time I was at Disneyland and I was there with a guy that I was seeing. And all of a sudden I started thinking about the parking lot at Disneyland and how back in the 80s and 90s you used to be able to park right at the front gate of Disneyland, buy your ticket and walk in. And it's not like that anymore. You have to go park in the parking structure. So anyways, I was thinking about that. And then all of a sudden I was thinking, why am I thinking about the parking lot? Like, yeah, I'm at Disneyland and yeah, I'm on the tram, but why am I even thinking about that thought? And then the guy I was seeing all of a sudden says, I remember when you used to be able to park in the parking lot and it was right by the gate and you could get right out of your car, buy your ticket and go into and I was like, oh my gosh, like I plucked that right out of his head and didn't even realize it. And so I think that for me, and I don't know if this will be true for you or for other people. For me, I know that it is not a projection of me, that it's an intuitive psychic message because it comes in kind of from nowhere. And if I am doing a reading with someone and I can't tell the difference between, is this for me or is this for someone else? Like, for example, a few days ago, I was doing a reading for someone and she wanted to know about a particular person. Like, basically, is this my soulmate type of thing? And the cards that I pulled up were very disconcerting. And they were very reminiscent of a situation I had been through. So I trusted the cards and I trusted what I had pulled, even though it felt so similar to what I had just been through. But I do believe that our life experiences can help us to connect to those messages better. So when someone's going through something, if we've been through it before, our empathy can kick in, our understanding can kick in. And that way, not only are we able to deliver those messages with more compassion and wisdom and really have kind of that heart to heart connection with the person we're reading for, but it also allows us to have a gauge in which to understand the message better. Because if I hadn't had that experience and I pulled those cards, I might have read it differently. I might have interpreted differently. Now, from what I gather from the feedback I got from her, there was a lot that was on point with that message. There was something she was unsure about, and it makes sense because she was invested in this person. So there may have been some ideas about him that she wanted to hold on to and wasn't ready to change, and that's okay. And I think that that's where we just have to have faith that, the cards came up a certain way or an idea came up in my mind while I was doing this reading for someone. I'm going to trust it. And if it turns out that you're wrong and it is a projection, no harm, no foul, right? If you say what's on your mind and the person you're reading for says, that doesn't quite resonate with me, that doesn't click, no problem. We move on to the next impression, right? And then also remember, some days our energy is just off. Sometimes people lie about what they're going through or what you're bringing up to them because they're not ready to admit that about themselves. And it's really important that we just kind of let that go with grace. Even if we have the suspicion that they're not being honest with us, we don't want to push because it's really not our business. They're entitled to their privacy, and maybe they feel as if we've walked through a door that they weren't ready to open. So we just kind of back up and do our best to put the reading back on track in a way that they're comfortable with, right? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So, okay. Um, let's see, what else have we got going on? Let me scroll. I know I'm missing out on a lot of your messages. All righty. Um, what is the best way to protect ourselves? Are practices dependent on different people? Castle of the Skies, that's a great question. I do think that our practices are going to be different. For me, I recently started wearing these as my protection. So I've got, the evil eye bracelet and the hand of Fatima. And I just got these a few days ago. And I got to tell you, I love them. And I do think that they're helping. I really do. Because there's been a lot of interesting energies, and I'll just put it that way. And so I think that just, sometimes symbols are helpful. So the best way to protect yourself is probably going to be dependent on what's happening in your life. One of the ways, excuse me, that I like to set up psychic protection is through incense. I did a video on that a long time ago. And what I do is I prefer frankincense and myrrh incense. That is like my favorite right now. I also do like Palo Santo. And HEM makes a white sage that smells really good. I'm not usually a fan of sages because it smells like skunk or weed. But the white sage from HEM smells so good. It smells heavenly. So what I do is I will light that sage and I will say a prayer over it. And the prayer is always for protection. And that's really more for clearing my space, right? So, like, even in this room right now, before I begin different practices, I will clear it with those different incense sticks. But what I'll also do is I will ask that incense to cleanse and protect me. I ask for its essence to blend with my aura and my energy and keep me protected throughout the day. And when I was really good years ago about making that a daily practice, I did feel the shift. I did notice it was working. And then, when I moved a few years ago and then different things just happened in my life, I stopped doing that. And I noticed a difference there too, a not very positive one. So now that I'm back in that practice, that's working really well for me again. But that's good for me. Someone who has asthma isn't going to do good with that, right? But there's also other practices you can do. Like, I also love working with holy water. So pouring holy water with some wonderful essential oils that have protecting properties in it is a powerful thing, and smells so good. I love the way that brings new energy into the room and into the space. So that's something you can do. You can get different talismans. Like, I mean, technically the hand of Fatima, these are talismans, right? On some level, because they're protecting me. You can have a religious symbol that means something to you. Some people like the cross, and so they feel like that helps them to ward off evil spirits, and that seems to work for them. So just notice what you are naturally inclined to and focus more on doing that. Really, I think that whatever lifts your vibration and keeps you in that feeling of being safe is going to be what's best for you. Oh, and then, you know what else I had? I used to say this mantra over and over again years ago, and it really helped. And it was, I am divinely guided and protected. I am divinely guided and protected. So whenever I was in a situation that made me feel really uncomfortable, I would say that over and over again. And eventually, like this wave of calm, this sense of calm and peace would wash over me. And that fear would just completely melt away. And then if someone broke my concentration and tried to talk to me, the fear would come back. And so I'd have to tell them, need you to leave me alone right now. I need to get back into my zen so I'm not scared. I'm out of my mind. I used to have this insane fear of heights. I don't have it anymore. It just kind of went away a few years ago, but I used to be really afraid of heights. And whenever I was on like a ski lift, whenever I was on a ski lift, or skyways too, or I was on any type of contraption where I was lifted up. Like if you've been to Knott's Berry Farm, you know that ride Supreme Scream where it like lifts you up and up and up and up, and then it's just like free falls. I used to hate that. And now it's funny because one of my favorite rides at California Adventure is Guardians of the Galaxy. What does that do? It lifts you up, then it drops you, and it's so much fun. I love that ride. And I do think that that's, one of the reasons I got over that fear is because of that mantra. But also I kept subjecting myself to that fear over and over again. Eventually it just kind of went away. So anyways, gosh, there's so many things that we can say when it comes to protection. But again, I think it really boils down to what makes you feel protected. Like, what can you put your faith in? What makes you feel as if you have that invisible shield up, or maybe not so invisible, So what is that for you? And just play around with that. Maybe you're someone who's able to pray and visualize a shield of light over you, and that keeps you good the rest of the day. So there's lots of different ways to work with that. I see a couple other questions about psychic attacks. I'm so glad you guys asked that, because so this is a synchronicity and a sign, because I was thinking about that earlier today, about whether or not I should create a series on psychic protection and energy protection and attachments. I know that's a darker topic, but I think it is something that's worth discussing. And so I love that you guys are asking these questions, because it makes me feel that, I feel like you guys answered my question you answered the question that I was kind of asking the universe and pondering in my mind today. So see, that's how I knew it was my question, because should I do this? Like, I think it's important. but yeah. So Nicole has a great video on YouTube about psychic protection, and she literally says that mantra. That's right. That's an older video. Yeah, I did that one a while ago. So I will have to redo that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see. I find the same and wear obsidian. Yes, and white labradorite. I've heard so many good things about obsidian. I'm going to have to get that. I'm trying to learn about creating your own field where your energy is stronger than anything dark, thus you are protected. Okay, you know what? I do. I forgot. There is this very cool thing that I learned. I channeled it years ago. So there was a scary movie that I had watched. And Nicole and scary movies, we're not friends, yo. We are not besties like this. We do not get along. Except for the movies Insidious. I was good with those. But for the most part, like The Lady in Black, no. The Ring, no. So I'll watch scary movies with people if they ask me to watch them, ask me to watch it with them. Sometimes I'll say yes. But for whatever reason, I was really drawn to watch this one scary movie. And my partner at the time, and this was many years ago, refused to watch it with me, which was weird because he wasn't a fan of scary movies, but he was just neutral about them. Like, he didn't seem to care one way or another. And this particular time, he was like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, why not? He's like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, well, why? Why won't you watch this with me? And he was just like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, okay. That should have been my first clue that this was probably going to be really scary, because I do think that this particular person, although he was a sociopath, he seemed to be intuitive about certain things. So I end up watching this movie. Big mistake, man. Big mistake. And my dog was lying in the room while I was watching this movie. And all of a sudden, and she was asleep, right? So I'm in the living room. I'm watching this movie. I'm freaking out because this movie is just messing with my head. My dog wakes up and immediately starts growling. She stands up, and as she's standing up, her heckles are going up. And I'm just watching this like, oh my God, what is going on? And she looked at the TV and she growled at it. And then she turned around and she gave me this dirty look, like, how dare I had this on in her house? And then she walks away very slowly the whole time, glaring at the TV, head down, and just kind of like, almost like a military crawl. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like, well, maybe there's and it was at a particularly scary part of the movie too. So I was like, well, maybe the filmmakers were really smart and they put one of those whistles in it that only dogs can hear and we can't. So things like this could happen. So I'm thinking maybe this is something the filmmakers did on purpose. By the way, if any filmmakers are watching this, I would suggest you do that because it'll make the movie creepier. Can you imagine? People all over the world, it even scared my dog. That's how I knew it was bad. Anyways, I probably shouldn't put that tidbit out there, huh? So anyways, I rewind that part of the film because now I'm curious. Now I want to play. Now I'm experimenting. I rewind the movie. I mute the TV and I call my dog back in. And my dog loves me, like absolutely loves me, right? So my dog comes running in, tail up and everything, and she gets halfway into the living room and she stops, tail goes down. She slowly turns her head and looks at the TV, looks over at me, once again, puts her head down, slowly turns around, and walks out of the room, pissed at me, like so mad. Like, oh my gosh, like this movie is evil. Like my dog is mad at me now. So that ended up like really messing with my mind, and I stopped watching the movie. I was like, I don't need to see anymore. Don't need to know anymore. Like, we're done. So every day I kept feeling as if that being, we'll just say that negative energy being from that movie was in my house. I kept feeling as if I was sensing it and feeling it everywhere. And it was really messing with my head. And I kept feeling this for I was terrified for 3 weeks, could hardly sleep. It was bad, guys. It was bad. And so one night I'm in bed and I feel this thing at the end of my bed over in the corner. And I was just like terrified. I didn't want to open my eyes because I didn't want to actually open my eyes and then see that. Like that would have scared me. And I was convinced that's what was going to happen. So I had my eyes closed and I was even like too terrified to remember to call on my angels or anything like that. And what ended up happening was in my mind's eye, I all of a sudden, with my eyes closed, saw this huge, brilliant, bright white light. It was huge. And even though my eyes were closed, this light was so bright, it almost hurt my eyes. Now, I don't know how that's possible, but that was the experience. And as this light just expanded in my mind, I suddenly felt so peaceful. Like I felt okay. And then I did open my eyes and everything felt good. It felt good. And I knew that this thing was gone. So I was like, wow, like one of my angels definitely came to the rescue. Because like I said, I was so afraid I even forgot to ask any of my spirit guides or anyone for help. And thankfully, our angels and guides know that they have permission to intercede at any time to protect and to help, right? So I have no doubt that was the light of something protecting me. And that's something that I've remembered. And so when I feel scared, when I feel as if there is something that's not supposed to be around, whenever I remember to do this, because I don't always remember. You know how it's like when you're scared. When you're scared or you're traumatized, you kind of forget to do just really common basic things. Have you ever been so afraid that you tried to scream for help but you couldn't, or you wanted to scream for help but you kind of forgot the word help, like the word help had just been torn out of your mind and that word no longer existed? Like, that stuff's terrifying, right? So when I remember to do that now, it has the same effect. Like when I just close my eyes and it's almost like I'm remembering that light. I just got like this really high pitched sound in my ear. Whew. Ouch. That was a little high. That really helps. That really helps. So I impart that wisdom with you guys because I do believe that this is helpful for everyone. You know, if you feel something negative, if you feel something really even just evil near you, or you're feeling scared, close your eyes and visualize that light and make it as bright as possible. And maybe just by doing that, you won't even have to try to make it bright. Maybe just putting out that signal is enough for your angels and guides to get that, that 911, that telepathic 911, and they can light up the room and light everything up for you. But yeah, that was a really powerful experience for me, because to go from like afraid of being in my own room and afraid of opening my eyes to just seeing this bright light, and then feeling relief and feeling peaceful and actually feeling good, like that's a big deal, because usually that's not how things happen, right? You don't usually go from being terrified to feeling like, oh my god, I feel amazing. Not in situations like that. So, all right, my friends. Well, that was an hour already. Can you believe it? Full hour already. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for joining me. Of course, if you would like a personal session with me, I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can always email me and we can set something up. You can visit my website, guidingechoes.com. My website recently got a makeover. It's still in the works, though. I'm still working on some stuff. There's still some, as Disney would say, pixie dust. It's just links that don't really lead anywhere yet, because I still need to fix things. But, these things take time. So, yeah, you can visit my website, guidingechoes.com, to order a psychic reading with me or mentoring. And, of course, I offer energy healing as well. So, thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. We'll be doing a live again on Friday. I haven't decided yet if that's going to be 1 p.m. Central or our usual 7 p.m. Central. So I'll let you know. And yeah, you guys have a great week, and I will see you soon. Oh, and on Thursday, I'm going to have an angel meditation / prayer for you guys. So that's not going to be a premiere because it's a meditation, and I want you guys to be able to use it when it makes sense for you, although it is a morning meditation. But you can use it really at any time. So, all right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you Friday. Bye, guys. Take care.